Hello and welcome to Cramer's Corner with the weekly technical update. My name is Cramer Larsson and I'm a technical analyst. I've been an equities trader for many years amongst other things, but I've been in the industry for about 25 years doing technical analysis. So, and just to start with, I have to say this, or have to emphasize this webinar or this video is for educational purpose only. There is no investment advice whatsoever intended. There's no recommendation or anything, purely to show you how I use my technical analysis and how I add it to my charts and how you can also add it to your trading. Today, we're going to look at NVIDIA, S&P 500, gold and copper, and finally some crude oil. So let's get cracking and let's have a look at NVIDIA to begin with. So here we have NVIDIA. On my left side, I have a daily chart. Each candle, this is called a candle if you're not familiar with a technical analysis chart or anything. This is a weekly candle. Sorry, this is a daily candle. Each one of them represents 1 day of trading. Here we have what we call a bearish candle. You can see if I zoom in, market opened here, moved up here, down here, and in a few minutes, market will close in the US and it will close around this level. If it's a positive candle or bullish candle, it will be green. In my case, it will be green, opening here, trading a little bit lower, and then higher, and then closing here. And then we can have different combination and names of these candles. Then it can actually tell us a story about what's going on and what's going on through the day, and also give an indication of top and reversal patterns. Then I have added some other indicators. I have a 21 daily moving average. I have a 55 moving average and 100 and 200 daily moving average. Here on the weekly chart, I have the same moving average, but then it's a weekly, 55 weekly, 100 weekly, and 200 weekly. So each of them represents 21 days of trading or 21 weeks of trading and only closing prices. Adding to that, I have down here, I have some lines going on. It's an RSI, relative strength index. It's basically just a strength indicator. So what did that tell me? It can tell me about the strength of a trend. It can also tell me what kind of sentiment I'm in or this stock is in. And if it's above 60 threshold here, then we are in a positive sentiment. It can go up to 100, can't go above 100, and it can go all the way down to 0, can't go below 0. So if it's below 40, then we're in a negative sentiment. And it stays in negative sentiment until it breaks back and closes above 60 threshold. And vice versa, it stays in positive sentiment until it actually breaks back below the 40 threshold. Then I have something else here that I'm going to remove. It's called an Ichimoku cloud. We're going to take that in a different time. So if we just zoom in on NVIDIA, and today it's Monday, and this is Monday evening. Market is about to close. Well, it actually just closed, as you can see here. So we closed actually below the 200 moving average on NVIDIA. It told us a little bit about that we were in a peak or top and reversal pattern. You can see this massive bearish candle here. Market opened up here, sellers in control throughout the entire session. Then here, but when it bounced back, it also took out the previous days of trading. These are called bearish engulfings because they engulf the previous days of candles. So what does tell us? Tell us that maybe we are in a top and reversal pattern. And then I added some trend line, support line, horizontal support and resistance lines. And that tells you that's to give you an indication. So there was a little bit of support here at 129.50, but the key support, as we can see here, was around 126.80. If closing below that, and it did that just today, well, then we are in a bearish trend. It is then supported by the RSI that closed below 40 threshold. So we are also in a negative sentiment. And a trend is identified as a lower low, a lower high, because this high is lower than this one, and then a new lower low. It doesn't mean we can't bounce back tomorrow. Maybe there will bargain hunters will come in and take a chance to see maybe it can bounce back further a little bit. But it really needs to get back above 129.50 at least, just go into neutral zone. but it needs to break back above this peak here at 149, just about 149 to establish a bullish trend. Looking at the weekly chart, so we're going a little bit medium term. That is also a bit of a worry if you are an 𝗕𝗏𝗂 shareholder. So we have been forming this pattern here, and it looks like what we call a rising wedge-like pattern with two trend lines. It's not a good example of it. It usually should touch it, at least one of these trend lines here 3 times. So it's not the most perfect one. However, the trend line here is real. So what it does had done, it actually broke below this trend line. So we could be in a bearish trend here also. And taking out these lows here, we saw about 126.86 and 129.50 means that we have a new low. If the week closes below those levels, which I believe they will, but we don't know that yet. But we have a lower low here than over here. So lower high, sorry, and a lower low here. So lower low, lower high, and a lower low. We have established a bearish trend. However, there has been warnings, as you can see here, the RSI, and we call this divergence. This is when the RSI values, they are actually declining, whereas the market or the instrument price or the share price is still moving higher. That is an imbalance in the market, and then they tell us that we are nearing a trend exhaustion. It doesn't tell you should sell anything, but it tells us that we are in a trend exhausted mode. And now it seems like it's turning around. If it's dropped further, and we also get the RSI below the 40 threshold here on the weekly at the end of the week, well, then it's definitely further confirming that the 𝗕𝗏𝗂 share is in a bearish trend, but we are about to confirm that also on the weekly. Moving on to the S&P 500, which is of course affected by this. And let's start with the weekly one here, just to give you an idea where we are in the world. And here there's a little bit of difference to the NVIDIA share. So first of all, we did have divergence here. You can see the RSI values, they were declining here, but the market moved higher. But what was interesting, we actually got what we call the bullish engulfing. You can see that the market started here last week and closed up, the week before last week, and it closed up here, engulfing this bearish candle here with the body. This is the body, and we have the shadows up here, or the wicks, as someone also called them. Market was very strong also last week, and here this morning we can see, and we will look at the daily chart in a minute, where we can actually see that it actually opened lower, but it crawled back higher. So I'm not really ready to call it off just yet. And what I will do, I will add a horizontal line there and say, okay, if we take out and close it below 5,773, then we are in a confirmed bearish trend also on the S&P 500 medium term. But let's just zoom in on the daily chart, see what's actually been going on here today. So we made a new all-time high, closed. Market opened a little bit lower today, but buyers were actually taking it back a little bit here and still above 6,000 during this session, closing above 6,000. If we can close this gap here the next couple of days, well, then we could see uptrend to resume, especially if it closes back above 6,100. The RSI is still in a positive sentiment. Yes, I know we dipped below the 60 threshold, but it needs to close below the 40 threshold to confirm a bearish or negative sentiment. So it's still a little bit up in the air. So let's talk about in about a week again. Then we have gold. Well, gold spiked higher, and now it becomes a little bit technical. Here we have a daily chart of gold, and it has been trading in this what we call a symmetrical triangle-like pattern. A corrective pattern, as you can see, without clear direction, but forming this triangle-like pattern. But then it broke out of the upper falling trend line, tested it, dropped back a little bit, and then took out the first peak here, and which was a resistance, and pushed higher. And then we can guesstimate it. We could already do it back then. Then we could guesstimate how far it could move. So first of all, we took the Fibonacci, and we're using Fibonacci numbers as sequences for this. Then we took the Fibonacci sequences, and then this was the latest correction, the last correction before it broke out. then we projected the price up to be 138 projection of this at 2,781, and it just spiked just a little bit above it. And we could also measure from the top to the bottom of this triangle-like pattern here, and I've used this vertical arrow there and added to the breakout prices. That's the rule of thumb that it could move to, but usually it doesn't go that far. So that's why I added Fibonacci to this level and then added to the breakout price. And these are the ones, the red ones here. And the 38.2% of this distance here is around 27.75. However, it usually moves up to 61.8 projection or extension at 2,834.35, which is also close to this Fibonacci projection. So will it move up there? Well, there are some indication. I know we are a little bit lower today, and we are probably testing this support area here at 27, 26, the support area. It was a resistance, now it's a support area. We're probably going to test that, and then we could bounce off. If it takes out, then buyers come back in and takes out the peak here from Friday, well, then we are likely to move up in this region here. And the reason for that is also that the RSI, as you can see down here, it actually showed still positive sentiment. There's no divergence, and it is still above 60 threshold. It can dip below 60, that's not a problem, as long as it doesn't close below 40 threshold. So if it bounces back and gold bounces back and move higher here, then we are looking at 2,800 plus levels. And if we're looking at the weekly, just to have an idea of what we're talking about, what's going on here, well, we can see this is the triangle-like pattern again, broken out of, and there is potential higher. We are in a bullish trend. We have resumed that. There's a little bit divergence on the RSI, but I think we will see it pushing higher. To demolish this picture completely, well, then we will need the gold to drop back below 26.55 level here and close below that. Then we have a completely different situation. But let's talk about if that situation occurs. Copper, let's move on to copper. And let's look at the bigger picture, because that's actually quite interesting. So here we have the weekly chart on copper, very volatile the past year. So moved very strongly in Q1, Q2 to 520 level, then collapsed and bounced back and so on. Found some support around down here around 400, and then has bounced off a little bit like a double bottom pattern here. See, the interesting thing here with the RSI is that it's actually never moved into negative sentiment, never moved below 40 threshold. And that is key. So also here, we have no divergence. There's no imbalance by this move here. That tells us there is a possibility that we will make a new high in copper eventually on the medium to longer term. However, we need two things to occur. First of all, we need copper to close above 449.30, so I would say above 450. 450 is a key resistance level, including also this falling trend line. You can see it actually got rejected there at this falling trend line here a couple of weeks ago. And I want the RSI to close back above 60 threshold. If those two situations occur, then I will be very bullish on copper, for copper to move at least up to the 500 area. Very short term, just to see what's going on. Actually, you can see we had a correction here, currently caught between the 100 moving average and the 55 that is declining, but around 50% of this uptrend I think we could still dip down to the 418 level, which is the 61.8 retracement, or 61.8% of this up here. And then I think we will bounce. We are still positive sentiment, no divergence. And if it moves back above 60 threshold, then we are in for a bullish trend again. It will be confirmed if it breaks back above 447, and 450 is, of course, the key resistance level. Finally, let's have a look at oil that has been on decline for the past few days. And let's just also have a look at the bigger picture here. The bigger picture is, for quite some time, we had lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, but not a new lower high, and not a new lower low. So this is downtrend, and this is signifying this is what a downtrend is. But it didn't continue. It actually tried to turn around and establish a bullish trend. However, it has so far failed. It spiked just above 81.59, but it didn't close above. And I want to close weekly closing price above to establish a bullish trend. And I also want the RSI to close above the 60 threshold to confirm that bullish trend, but it got rejected here, got rejected at the upper falling trend line, got rejected this resistance just below the 200 weekly moving average. So that tells me, well, it's not that weak and we can sit back, but maybe it will have another go eventually. We don't know that yet, but what we can see on the daily chart, we can see that after reaching that level, spiking above a little bit, it got sent back, and now it has taken almost 60% of that uptrend back. And that's usually what we see, a correction when we see that to around 61.8, and that's around $76. And I think we could see some bouncing from that level. RSI still in a positive sentiment, but if it does close below 40 threshold, we are back in negative territory, and then I don't think we'll see Brent crude moving higher. So the next couple of days could be decisive for this to occur. All right, that's all for me today. This was the first edition of a weekly technical update. There are planned more editions in the coming week to be released on Mondays. Usually, we were a little bit later this time due to some technical issues, and also especially with what's going on the market here today, especially on the AI stocks. If you want to follow me on a continuous basis, I do technical updates on a daily basis. Daily technical update is called on YouTube. You can find me on Cramer's Corner TA. Thank you very much.